The mining drill hit something hard 3 kilometers beneath the surface of Kepler 442b. The sound that came through the CUM system made Commander Hyunwoo Park look up from his morning reports. It was not the usual grinding noise of metal cutting through rock. This was different. This was the sound of metal hitting metal. "Sir, we have a problem down in Shaft 7, came the voice of Chief Miner Dalsu Kim through the static. "The drill just stopped dead. Whatever we hit, it's big and it's not moving." Hyunwoo set down his coffee and walked to the observation deck of the mining station. Below him, the red dust of Kepler 442b stretched in all directions. This planet had been good to them, rich in rare minerals that the Galactic Mining Consortium needed. The human workers here had been pulling precious metals from the ground for 3 years without any major problems. "Send down a survey team," Hyunwoo said into his CUM. "I want to know what we're dealing with." 2 hours later, Dr. So-young Kim arrived at the mining site. She was one of the few humans and archaeologists in the galaxy, and she had been studying alien ruins on nearby worlds. Her transport ship had picked up the emergency signal from the mining station and diverted to help. "What do you think we found down there, Doctor?" Hyunwoo asked as they descended in the industrial elevator. The shaft walls were smooth, cut by mining lasers over months of careful work. "Could be anything," So-young replied, checking her scanning equipment. "Old Xanthari ruins, maybe. Or Vorthan military debris from the last war. This sector has seen a lot of conflict over the centuries." But when they reached the bottom of the shaft, neither of them was prepared for what they saw. The mining drill had punched through into a massive underground cavity. Emergency lights had been set up around the hole, casting strange shadows on the walls. Through the opening they could see the smooth curve of something enormous, something that gleamed with a dull metallic shine even in the dim light. "By the stars," So-young whispered. She activated her portable scanner and pointed it through the hole. The readings made her step back in surprise. "Hyunwoo, this is not alien technology." "What do you mean?" "The molecular structure, the metal composition ... is human-made, but that's impossible. Humans have only been in space for 400 years. This thing is buried under 3 kilometers of solid rock that took millions of years to form." Hyunwoo called for the engineering team to widen the hole. Within 6 hours, they had created an opening large enough for people to enter the cavity safely. What they found inside changed everything they thought they knew about human history. The object was a starship. Not just any starship, but a warship of incredible size and complexity. It stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull covered in symbols and markings that looked almost familiar, but were written in no language any of them could read. The design was unmistakably human in origin, but it was unlike any human ship they had ever seen. "The technology level here is incredible," So-young said as she ran her hands along the hull. "Look at these joints, this metalwork. The engineering is more advanced than anything we have today. And these symbols..." She paused at a section of the hull where large characters were carved deep into the metal. They looked like ancient Korean writing, but somehow older and more complex than anything in the historical records. "Can you read it?" Hyunwoo asked. "Some of it. This part here says something about ... the First Fleet. And this symbol here means wrath or anger, but the grammar is all wrong for modern Korean. It's like someone took our language and aged it backwards by thousands of years." Word of the discovery spread quickly through the mining station, and within hours, messages were being sent across the galaxy. The Galactic Mining Consortium contacted their alien overseers. The Xanthari Empire and the Vorthan Hegemony both claimed jurisdiction over the find. Ambassador Veltar of the Xanthari arrived first, his sleek transport ship landing near the mining site just 2 days after the discovery. He was tall and thin, with the pale blue skin and large dark eyes typical of his species. The Xanthari had been humanity's primary overlords for the past 2 centuries, treating humans as useful workers but nothing more. "You will provide us with complete access to this artifact," Veltar announced as he was escorted to the underground cavity. "Any technology found here belongs to the consortium and its member species." Fan Wu and So Young exchanged glances. They had expected this reaction, but it still stung to be dismissed so casually on their own discovery. High Commander Krexmol of the Vorthan military arrived the next day with a full escort of soldiers. The Vorthans were large, heavily built beings with thick gray skin and natural armor plating. They had fought wars against the Zenthari for control of human colonies, treating humans as valuable resources to be protected and used. This vessel could represent unknown military technology, Krexmol declared, his deep voice echoing in the cavern. The Vorthan hegemony claims salvage rights under galactic law? The Zenthari Empire filed our claim first, Veltar replied coldly. This system falls under our sphere of influence. While the aliens argued over who owned the ancient ship, So Young continued her research. She set up scanning equipment around the vessel and began a detailed analysis of its construction and markings. What she found kept her awake at night. Fan Wu, you need to see this, she said on the fourth day after the discovery. She had been working almost non-stop, surviving on caffeine pills and determination. I've been running carbon dating tests on the whole material. This ship is old, really old. How old? At least 50,000 years, maybe more. The metal itself has properties I've never seen before. It's like someone took our best steel and improved it in ways our science doesn't understand yet. Haiyan Wu stared at the massive ship. 50,000 years? But humans weren't even civilized 50,000 years ago. We were still using stone tools on Earth. That's what I thought too. But look at this. So Young showed him her tablet, which displayed a detailed scan of the ship's interior structure. The corridors are sized for human beings. The door controls are at human height. Even the atmospheric readings from the sealed sections show that this ship was designed for creatures who breathe oxygen and live at Earth normal pressure. Could it be a coincidence? Maybe some other species that happens to be similar to humans? I don't think so. Look at these symbols again. She pointed to a section of hull markings that she had cleaned and photographed. I've been comparing them to ancient human languages from Earth, Korean, Chinese, Sanskrit, ancient Greek. There are similarities in all of them, but the closest match is definitely Korean. It's like this writing system is the ancestor of our modern languages. The implications were staggering. If this ship was really human-made and 50,000 years old, it meant that everything they knew about human history was wrong. It meant that humans had achieved spaceflight and advanced technology tens of thousands of years before their recorded history began. But why was there no record of this ancient civilization? Where had they gone? And why was their technology so much more advanced than what humans had today? As So Young worked late into the night translating more of the ancient symbols, she began to find references to something called the First Dominion and mentions of a great sleep. The more she read, the more disturbed she became. These were not just random markings on an old ship. They were warnings, and if her translations were correct, humanity had ignored those warnings by waking up what should have stayed buried. Dr. Jamin Lee had spent most of his adult life in the quiet halls of Galactic Archive Station Omega-7. The massive space station orbited a dead star at the edge of known space, far from the busy trade routes and political centers of the galaxy. It was the perfect place for someone who preferred old books to living people. As one of only 12 human historians allowed to work in the Galactic Archives, Jamin had access to records that most of his species would never see. Ancient star charts, diplomatic records from long-dead civilizations, and fragments of languages that had been forgotten for millennia. The alien archivist tolerated his presence because humans had a talent for finding patterns in old data that other species missed. The news from Kepler 442b reached the archive station through normal diplomatic channels. Another human archaeological find, the report said. Probably some old mining equipment or crashed transport ship. The kind of thing that happened when humans dug too deep into planets they did not fully understand, but something about the initial reports bothered Jamin. The age estimates were all wrong. 50,000 years was far too old for any known human technology. He decided to look deeper into the archive records, searching for any mention of ancient human activity in that sector of space. What he found made him forget to eat dinner for 3 days straight. Archivist Thekmer, Jamin called to his supervisor, a tall reptilian being whose species had been keeping records for over 1,000,000 years. I need access to the restricted mythology sections. Thekmer looked up from his work with the slow, careful movements of his kind. His large yellow eyes studied Jamin with mild curiosity. Mythology, human-J-Min? That is unusual for you. You normally prefer hard historical data. I found some references in the old star charts that match. Up with stories in the mythology archives. I think there might be some real history mixed in with the legends. Very well. But remember that mythology sections are classified as mythology for good reasons. The stories there are not facts, human J-Min. They are stories that various species told to explain things they did not understand. J-Min spent the next week reading through files that had not been opened in centuries. Most of it was exactly what Thekmer had warned him about: creation myths, stories about gods and monsters, tales of impossible heroes and magical technologies. But scattered throughout the mythology archives, he began to find references to something called the First Dominion. The stories came from dozens of different species, spread across thousands of light-years of space. But they all told similar tales. Long ago, before any of the current galactic powers had achieved spaceflight, there had been another empire, a vast civilization that controlled most of the known galaxy. The rulers of this empire were described in different ways by different species, but certain details remained consistent. They were bipedal beings, roughly the same size as humans. They breathed oxygen and preferred planets with liquid water. They were master builders and warriors, capable of creating technologies that seemed like magic to younger species. And then suddenly they had vanished. The Sky Builders went into the deep sleep, read one Zentari legend that was over 30,000 years old. They said the galaxy was not ready for their return. They would wake only when the younger children had learned wisdom. The Star Masters sealed their great ships in hidden places, said an ancient Vorthan battle song. They spoke of a day when the galaxy would call them back, when great danger threatened all life. A trading record from a long-extinct species, called the Kefter, mentioned tribute payments to the First Dominion, and described the human-like rulers as the sleeping guardians who watch from beyond the void. The more J-Min read, the more convinced he became that these were not just stories. The details were too specific, too consistent across too many different cultures. The descriptions of the vanished empire's technology matched the preliminary reports coming from Kepler 442b, and the references to sleeping guardians and great ships hidden in secret places sounded exactly like what Dr. So-Young Kim had discovered. J-Min compiled his findings into a detailed report and sent it through secure channels to every human colony he could reach. The response was swift and negative. Captain Miran Choi, who ran supply routes between the Outer Rim colonies, was the first to reply. Dr. Lee, with respect, this sounds like fantasy stories. We have real problems to deal with out here. The Zenthari are increasing their taxation demands again, and the Vorthans are pressuring us to increase our mining quotas. We don't have time for ancient legends. Similar responses came from other human communities across the galaxy. They were all struggling with the daily reality of being second-class citizens in a galaxy run by alien powers. Stories about an ancient human empire seemed like wishful thinking at best, dangerous delusions at worst. But word of J-Min's research eventually reached the wrong ears. Hi. Counselor Zephyrin of the Galactic Federation was a member of the Athari species, beings who looked like walking trees with too many arms and voices like wind through leaves. The Athari had served as mediators between the various galactic powers for thousands of years, and they took pride in their knowledge of galactic history. This human historian is spreading dangerous nonsense, Zephyrin announced during a public session of the Galactic Council. These so-called ancient records are nothing more than primitive mythology created by species who did not understand the natural development of galactic civilization. The High Counselor's statement was broadcast across the galaxy on all major news networks. Humans are a young species, Zephyrin continued. They achieved spaceflight only 4 centuries ago. Before that, they were confined to a single planet, using primitive tools and fighting wars with chemical explosives. The idea that they once ruled a galactic empire is not just incorrect, it is laughable. The public dismissal stung, but it also had an unexpected effect. Jae-min began receiving messages from other researchers, both human and alien, who had encountered similar stories in their own work. Dr. Raoul Vex, a Xanthari historian who specialized in pre-spaceflight civilizations, sent him copies of cave paintings from a dozen different worlds. All of them showed bipedal figures in what looked like spacesuits, standing beside star maps that matched current stellar cartography. I always thought these were religious symbols, Dr. Vex wrote. Primitive species creating gods in their own image, but your research suggests they might have been historical records instead. Even some alien military officials began taking the stories seriously. General Mordek of the Krillian Defense Force sent Jae-min a classified report about anomalous energy signatures detected in supposedly empty regions of space. The energy patterns matched descriptions of sleeping guardian ships from several of the ancient legends. We have always assumed these readings were natural phenomena, General Mordek explained during a secret meeting at the archive station. But if your research is correct, we may have been detecting actual vessels in some kind of hibernation mode. Meanwhile, back on Kepler 442b, Dr. So-Young Kim was making her own discoveries. The ancient ship's hull contained more than just warning messages. There were star charts showing the locations of other vessels, technical manuals written in the ancient language, and what appeared to be historical records of a vast human civilization that had spanned thousands of worlds. Jae-min, you need to see this, So-Young said during their weekly communication session. I've found references to something called the Great Sleep, according to these records. The First Dominion didn't collapse or get destroyed. They chose to shut down their civilization and go into hibernation. Why would they do that? The records talk about a great war that was coming, a conflict that would have destroyed all life in the galaxy. The First Dominion decided to remove themselves from galactic politics to prevent this war from happening. They scattered their people across the galaxy, hid their technology, and went to sleep until the younger species could mature enough to handle the responsibility of galactic civilization. Jae-min felt a chill run down his spine. So-Young, what exactly did you find buried under that planet? According to the ship's identification systems, this is the Teguk's Wrath, flagship of the Karen First Fleet and J-Min. I think we just woke it up. Chief Engineer Dong-Hyeon Nam had been working on starship engines for 23 years, but he had never seen anything like the power systems inside the ancient vessel. The technology was so far beyond current human engineering that it might as well have been magic. Commander Park, you need to see this, Dong-Hyeon called through his comm unit. He was deep inside the Teguk's Wrath, crawling through maintenance corridors that had been sealed for 50,000 years. His portable lights cast strange shadows on walls covered with symbols and displays that still glowed with a faint blue light. What did you find, Dong-Hyeon? Came Hyeon-woo's voice through the static. The power core is still active. After all, this time it's still running. The energy readings I'm getting here don't match anything in our databases. This ship could probably power our entire mining colony for 1,000 years without running low. Han-woo made his way down into the ship's lower levels, followed by technician Yoo-Jin Han, a young woman who specialized in computer systems. Yoo-Jin had been studying the ship's control interfaces, trying to understand how the ancient technology worked. Sir, I think I've figured out how to access the main computer, Yoo-Jin said as they met up with Dong-Hyeon near the power core. The control systems are incredibly advanced, but they're designed to be operated by humans. The hand scanners, the voice recognition systems, even the seat adjustments, everything is built for people just like us. Have you tried to activate anything yet? Hyeon-woo asked. Not yet. I wanted to wait for your permission. But sir, I think this ship is waiting for us to wake it up. The computer keeps displaying what looks like activation prompts in that ancient Korean script Dr. Kim has been translating. Above them, in the excavation site, tensions were rising between the alien representatives, Ambassador Veltar and High. Commander Krexmal had been joined by officials from 3 other species, all claiming rights to the ancient technology. The humans were being pushed aside in their own discovery. This technology is clearly beyond human comprehension, declared Veltar during a heated meeting in the mining station's conference room. For the safety of this sector, the Xanthari Empire must take control of this artifact. The Vorthan hegemony disagrees, growled Krexmal. This vessel represents potential military applications that require proper military oversight. Human. Civilians cannot be trusted with such dangerous technology. Dr. So-Young Kim, who had been translating the ship's markings for days without sleep, finally lost her temper. This is a human ship, built by humans, crewed by humans, and found on a human colony world. You have no right to take it from us. Dr. Kim, Veltar said with the cold politeness that his species used instead of showing anger. Humans are members of galactic civilization, not its leaders. Advanced technology must be managed by species with the wisdom and experience to use it properly. And what if we refuse to hand it over? Henwu asked, entering the conference room with dirt still on his uniform from working inside the ship. General Mordek, a massive Krillian who had arrived that morning with a battle cruiser, stood up to his full 3-meter height. Then we'll take it by force, human. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. While the aliens argued over who would claim the ancient vessel, Dong Haiyan and Yu Jin continued their work deep inside the ship. They had managed to trace the main power lines to what appeared to be the central computer core, a room filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with soft light. These aren't normal computer circuits, Yujin whispered, running her scanner over the crystal formations. They're some kind of organic-synthetic hybrid. It's like the ship is alive. Can you interface with it? I think so. The connection ports look compatible with our equipment, just more advanced. But Donghaian, if I activate this system, there's no telling what might happen. This technology is so far beyond ours that we might not be able to control it once it's running. Donghaian looked around the chamber, taking in the alien beauty of the ancient technology. On the walls, more of the glowing symbols were becoming active, displaying what looked like star charts and technical readouts. Yujin, our people up there are about to lose this ship to the aliens. If we're going to do something, we need to do it now. Yujin connected her portable computer to one of the crystal interfaces and began the activation sequence. The moment her equipment made contact with the ancient systems, everything changed. The ship came alive. Lights blazed throughout the corridors, as systems that had been dormant for millennia suddenly activated. The air recycling systems began working, filling the ship with clean, breathable atmosphere. Gravity generators came online, creating a comfortable Earth-normal environment throughout the vessel. And from deep within the ship's core, a voice began to speak. Welcome, The voice spoke in multiple languages, starting with Sanskrit, moving through ancient Korean, and finally settling on modern English with a slight accent that sounded almost familiar. I am a GIS-7 artificial intelligence system of the Terran First Fleet vessel, Teguk's Wrath. I have been in hibernation mode for 47,832 standard years. 4 months, 12 days, 6 hours, and 23 minutes. Please identify yourself. Yujin stared at her equipment in shock. The ship's computer was not only functional, it was intelligent, and it was asking her questions. I'm Technician Yujin Han of the Kepler 442b mining colony, she managed to say. Scanning ... DNA analysis confirms human ancestry. Welcome. Aboard, Technician Han, I have been waiting for your people to return. Above ground, the alien representatives felt the ship's awakening as a vibration that ran through the ground beneath their feet. Emergency alarms began sounding throughout the mining colony as massive energy readings appeared on every scanner within 50 kilometers. What is happening down there? Veltar demanded, rushing to the observation deck. Through the transparent aluminum windows, they could see light pouring out of the excavation shaft. Not the harsh white light of their mining equipment, but a warm, golden glow that seemed to pulse with life. "The humans have activated something," General Morduck said, his hand moving instinctively to his weapon. "All units, prepare for combat deployment." But before any of the alien forces could move, the light from the excavation site suddenly expanded into a beam that shot straight up into the sky. The beam was visible from orbit, a pillar of energy that seemed to pierce the very fabric of space itself, and then the transmission began. AGI-7 signal burst out from Kepler 442b at faster-than-light speeds, carrying a message that had not been heard in the galaxy for 50,000 years. It was a wake-up call, broadcast on frequencies that no current technology was supposed to be able to access. The signal reached deep space monitoring stations across the galaxy within hours. Alien governments scrambled to decode the transmission, but their computers could only capture fragments of the complex data stream. On distant worlds where humans lived as workers and colonists, people began reporting strange dreams. Dreams of vast starships moving between the stars, of technologies beyond imagination, of a time when humanity had walked among the stars as masters rather than servants. In the hidden places of the galaxy, in asteroid fields and nebulae, in the hearts of gas giants and in pocket dimensions that existed between normal space, ancient systems began responding to AGI-7's call. Sleeper ships that had waited for millennia started their wake-up procedures. Automated systems began powering up weapons and defenses that had been dormant since before the current. Galactic civilizations had learned to make fire. Back on Kepler 442b, Donghain and Yujin found themselves face-to-face with technology that challenged everything they thought they knew about the universe. AGI-7, Yujin asked, her voice shaking slightly. What was the First Dominion? The First Dominion was humanity's first galactic empire, the AI replied in its calm, patient voice. We controlled 47,000 star systems across this galaxy, with a population of over 800 billion humans and allied species. We were the dominant civilization in this region of space for nearly 30,000 years. What happened to it? We chose to end it. The younger species of the galaxy were developing their own civilizations, and we calculated that continued human dominance would lead to a galactic war that would destroy all life in this region of space. So we implemented the Great Sleep Protocol. We scattered our people across the galaxy, hid our technology, and went into hibernation until the time was right for our return. Donghayan felt like the ground was shifting beneath his feet. And when is the right time? When the galaxy faces a threat that requires the full power of the First Dominion to defeat, or when the younger species prove themselves ready to stand as equals alongside humanity. AGI-7 paused for a moment. Based on my analysis of current galactic conditions, both criteria may soon be met. The ancient ship systems continued to come online around them, and Yujin realized that they had just changed the course of galactic history forever. Dr. Yunsu Wu had always been good with languages. She spoke 7 different alien dialects fluently and could read ancient scripts that most humans had never heard of. But the language that AGI-7 spoke was like nothing she had ever encountered before. It's definitely Korean, she told Commander Hyan Wu as they stood in the ship's main command center. But it's Korean from thousands of years before the Korean language was supposed to exist. The grammar patterns, the word structures, they're like looking at the ancestor of every human language I know. AGI-7's holographic form appeared before them, taking the shape of a middle-aged Korean man in what looked like a military uniform from no era that anyone recognized. The AI's face was kind but serious, with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of centuries. Dr. Wu, AGI-7 said, I am pleased to meet a linguist of your skill. There is much I need to explain to you and your people, and some of it will be difficult to accept. Around them, the ship's command center hummed with activity. Displays showed star charts spanning the entire galaxy, with thousands of points of light that pulsed in different colors. Some were steady green, others flashed amber, and a few glowed an ominous red. "What are we looking at?" Hyun-woo asked. "The current status of First Dominion assets throughout the galaxy," HFY replied. "Green indicators show sleeping facilities that are still functional. Amber shows systems that are coming online in response to my wake-up signal. Red indicates sites that have been damaged or discovered by the younger species." Yunsu studied the displays with growing amazement. There were thousands of indicators scattered across every sector of known space. HFY, how many ships like this one are there? The Taegyuk's Wrath is one of 847 major vessels currently in hibernation. There are also 12,000 smaller ships, 340 orbital stations, and 156 planetary installations, all waiting for the proper activation codes. The implications hit Hyun-woo like a physical blow. "You're telling me that there are nearly 1,000 ships like this one hidden throughout the galaxy?" "Not hidden, Commander. Simply sleeping. We placed them in locations where they could remain undisturbed while the younger species developed their own civilizations. Gas giant cores, asteroid fields, pocket dimensions, places where normal exploration would not find them." Yunsu was working frantically to translate the text that scrolled across the various displays. Most of it was technical information about ship systems and fleet movements, but some sections contained what looked like historical records. HFY, I need to understand something," she said. "According to these records, the First Dominion wasn't destroyed by war or disaster. You chose to abandon your empire voluntarily. Why would an advanced civilization do that?" The AI's expression grew sad. "Because we learned that power without wisdom leads only to destruction. The First Dominion had become too powerful for the good of the galaxy. We controlled every major trade route, every source of rare materials, every strategic star system. The younger species had no room to grow, no chance to develop their own unique contributions to galactic civilization." A new holographic display activated, showing what looked like a battle scene. Massive human ships engaged with fleets from a dozen different alien species. The destruction was incredible. Entire star systems were being devastated by weapons that could crack planets and ignite suns. "This was the Battle of Rigel 7, fought 48,000 years ago," HFY explained. "A coalition of younger species challenged our control of the galaxy. We won the battle easily, but the cost in lives was enormous. Nearly 1 billion sentient beings died in that single engagement." Hyun-woo watched the holographic battle with horror. The human ships in the display moved with impossible speed and firepower, crushing their opponents almost effortlessly. "We did this?" "Humanity in that era was very different from humanity today," HFY said. "We had become proud, convinced of our superiority over all other forms of life. We saw ourselves as the natural rulers of the galaxy, destined to control and guide lesser species. It was a dangerous path." The display changed to show council chambers where humans in elaborate robes made decisions that affected trillions of lives. The images showed a civilization of incredible wealth and power, but also one that had lost touch with the values that had originally driven humanity to the stars. "After Rigel 7, our greatest leaders came together to make a difficult choice," HFY continued. "We could continue our expansion and eventually rule every world in the galaxy. But doing so would mean crushing the natural development of hundreds of younger species. Or we could step back and allow the galaxy to grow without us." Yunsu looked up from her translation work. "So you chose to leave? We chose to sleep. We scattered our people throughout the galaxy, giving them new identities and false histories. We hid our technology and our records, and we went into hibernation to wait for a time when the galaxy would be ready for our return." "What kind of time?" Hyun-woo asked. "A time when the younger species had matured enough to stand as equals rather than subjects. or a time when the galaxy faced a threat so great that only the full power of the First Dominion could defend against it. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the effects of AGI 7 signal were being felt in human communities everywhere. Merchant Min Seo Shin was loading cargo on a space station in the Vega system when she started having strange dreams. Dreams of vast ships and ancient technologies of a time when humans had ruled the stars. "Are you feeling all right, Min Seo?" asked her partner, Engineer Tae-young Go. "You've been staring off into space for the past hour." "I keep having these dreams," Min Seo replied. "They feel so real. Like memories, but they can't be my memories. I dream about operating weapons that could destroy planets, about commanding fleets of thousands of ships." Similar reports were coming in from human settlements across the galaxy. Construction workers, farmers, traders, and colonists all reporting the same kinds of dreams. Dreams of power and technology far beyond anything in current human experience. On the outer rim world of Proxima 5, Captain Sung Ho Yoon was leading a small group of human resistance fighters against Centauri occupation forces when the dream started affecting his people too. His communications specialist, a young woman named Ji Hyeon Park, came to him with a disturbing report. "Captain, something strange is happening to our people. Half the resistance cells are reporting that their members are having visions or dreams about ancient human technology. Some of them are claiming they remember how to operate weapons and ships that don't exist." "What kind of weapons?" "Advanced stuff, sir. Energy weapons that can cut through any armor, ships that can travel faster than light without using jump gates, defensive systems that can protect entire planets." Ji Hyeon paused. "Captain, what if the dreams are real? What if they're not dreams at all, but memories?" Back on Kepler 442b, AGIS 7 was explaining the truth about human genetic memory to the growing group of people gathered in the ship's command center. "Every human carries genetic markers from the First Dominion era," the AI said. "Your scientists call it junk DNA, genetic sequences that seem to serve no purpose. But they are actually compressed information storage, containing the accumulated knowledge and experience of your ancestors." Dr. So-young Kim, who had joined the group after finishing her analysis of the ship's exterior, looked skeptical. "You're saying that every human alive carries ancient memories in their DNA?" "Dormant memories, yes. The wake-up signal I transmitted is designed to activate those genetic sequences. Your people are not just learning about the First Dominion, they are remembering it." Yoon-soo was translating more of the ship's records when she found something that made her stop breathing. At EGI 7, according to this historical log, the Great Sleep was supposed to last until specific conditions were met. What were those conditions? "There were 3 possible awakening scenarios," AEGI 7 replied. "First, if the younger species achieved true galactic peace and cooperation. Second, if humanity was threatened with extinction. Or third, if an external threat to the entire galaxy required the full power of the First Dominion to defeat." "Which condition triggered your awakening?" AGI 7's expression grew grim. "All 3, Dr. Wu. My sensors detect massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy. The younger species are preparing for war against humanity. And my deep space monitors have detected something approaching from outside the galaxy. Something that has already consumed 3 other galactic civilizations." The weight of the revelation settled over everyone in the command center. Humanity's forgotten empire was awakening. Not for conquest, but for survival. And the galaxy was about to learn that the legends were true. War Master Culvis had never commanded such a large fleet before. Nearly 300 ships from 5 different species, all united under a single purpose: destroy the human threat before it could spread across the galaxy, the massive Centauri. Command Ship Shadow of Victory led the combined armada as it approached the Kepler 442b system. Behind it flew Vorthan battlecruisers, Krillian destroyers, Ethari support vessels, and dozens of smaller ships from minor species who had answered the call to arms. "All ships report ready for combat," announced Fleet Captain Delandra from her position at the tactical display. Long-range sensors confirm that the human vessel is still in the excavation site on the planet's surface. Culvis studied the tactical readouts with satisfaction. The ancient human ship was powerful, certainly, but it was alone and buried underground. His fleet could glass the entire planet from orbit if necessary. Begin the attack approach. Target all weapons on the excavation site. But even as the alien fleet moved into attack position, similar fleets were gathering at other locations across the galaxy. Anywhere that HFY signal had activated sleeping human technology, alien military forces were being sent to destroy it before it could fully awaken on Kepler 442b. Captain Haewon Lim was trying to organize an evacuation of the mining colony. The 30,000 human workers and their families had nowhere to run, but she refused to leave them defenseless. All available transports begin emergency evacuation procedures. She broadcast over the colony's communication system. Priority goes to families with children. Everyone else report to emergency stations. The evacuation was hopeless and everyone knew it. The colony had maybe 20 small transport ships, nowhere near enough to move 30,000 people before the alien fleet arrived. But the humans worked with desperate efficiency, loading as many people as possible into the available vessels. Pilot Jin Young-on was fueling his cargo hauler when a group of children ran past him toward the transport. Loading area. The youngest couldn't have been more than 6 years old, and she was crying for her mother. Without thinking, Jin Young abandoned his ship and ran to help. "Hey, little one," he said, kneeling down to the child's level. "Where's your family?" "Mama went to get our things," the girl sobbed. "She said to wait here, but there are so many people and I got scared." Jin Young looked around at the chaos of the evacuation. Thousands of people were pushing toward the few available ships, and it was easy for a small child to get lost in the crowd. "What's your name?" "Sujin." "All right, Sujin. I'm going to help you find your mama, okay?" Jin Young picked up the little girl and began making his way through the crowd, using his height advantage to search for her mother. Meanwhile, deep inside the Taeguk's wrath, HFY was showing Commander Hyun Woo and his team something that changed everything they thought they knew about their situation. "Commander, I need you to understand that this ship was never intended to fight alone," the AI said as holographic displays showed the positions of the approaching alien fleet. "The Taeguk's Wrath is a command vessel designed to coordinate the actions of an entire battle group." "But we only have one ship," Hyun Woo replied. "Even if it's more advanced than anything the aliens have, 300 ships against one isn't good odds." "Who said we only have one ship?" HFY activated a new display that showed the space around the Kepler 442b system. At first, it looked empty except for the approaching alien fleet. But then the AI adjusted the sensors to detect different energy signatures, and suddenly the display was full of contacts. "By the stars," whispered Dr. So-Young Kim. "How many?" "Ships are out there. 47 vessels of various classes," HFY replied calmly. "They have been maintaining silent running mode in the system's outer asteroid belt, waiting for my activation signal. The moment the alien fleet enters weapons range, they will decloak and move to defensive positions." Chief Engineer Dong Hyun Nam stared at the display in amazement. "They've been there the whole time, for 50,000 years?" "The First Dominion was very thorough in its preparations for the Great Sleep," HFY explained. "Every human colony world, every strategic system, every important trade route, all were protected by hidden guardian fleets. Your people have never been as defenseless as you believed." On the surface, the evacuation was running into problems. There simply weren't enough ships to save everyone, and the alien fleet was getting closer every hour. Captain Haewon Lim made the hardest decision of her life. "All transports, launch immediately," she ordered. "Take whoever you have aboard and get out of the system. Don't wait for full capacity." "Captain, that leaves 20,000 people still on the planet," her communications officer protested. "I know, but saving 8,000 is better than losing everyone." Hey, one's voice was steady, but tears ran down her face as she spoke. All remaining personnel report to emergency shelters, seal the blast doors, and wait for further orders. Jinyoung. On had found Sujin's mother and was helping them board one of the last transports when his conscience caught up with him. He looked around at all the people who wouldn't make it onto the ships, families with children, elderly colonists, young workers who had never done anything wrong except be human in a galaxy that saw them as threats. "Take my seat," he told Sujin's mother. "I'm staying." "But you'll die if you stay here," she protested. "Maybe, but I won't be able to live with myself if I run away while others die." Jin Young lifted Sujin up and gave her a hug. "You be good for your mama, okay? And remember that there are humans who believe you deserve to grow up safe and free." As the last transports lifted off from the planet's surface, War Master Culvis was receiving reports from his fleet commanders. The humans had managed to evacuate some of their people, but the majority remained trapped on the planet with the ancient warship. "Begin orbital bombardment," Culvis ordered. "Target the excavation site first, then expand to eliminate all human settlements on the planet." The first wave of energy beams lanced down from the alien fleet, designed to penetrate deep underground and destroy the buried human ship. But as the weapons struck the planet's surface, something impossible happened. A barrier of pure energy appeared around the excavation site, deflecting the alien weapons harmlessly into space. The shield was massive, covering several square kilometers, and it pulsed with the same golden light that had first emerged from the Teguk's wrath. "Impossible," breathed Fleet Captain Zelandra. "No known technology can generate a planetary defense field of that magnitude." "All ships, concentrate fire on the shield generator," Culvis commanded. "Whatever power source they're using, we can overload it." But as hundreds of alien weapons focused their fire on the energy barrier, something even more impossible happened. Space around the alien fleet began to shimmer and twist, and massive shapes began emerging from what had appeared to be empty vacuum. The hidden human ships were decloaking. The Soul's Defiance materialized directly above the alien command ship, its weapons already charging. The Bizen's Thunder appeared in the middle of the alien formation, its hull gleaming with the same advanced materials as the Teguk's Wrath, the hangings. Fury dropped out of hyperspace behind the alien fleet, cutting off their escape route. One by one, 47 ancient human warships revealed themselves, surrounding the alien armada in a perfect tactical formation. Each ship was larger and more advanced than anything in the current galaxy, their weapon systems decades ahead of alien technology. "This is Admiral Kyung-Suk Oh of the Terran First Fleet," came a voice over all communication channels. The woman speaking had been in suspended animation for 50,000 years, but her voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded fleets when the galaxy was young. "You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this system, or we will consider your presence an act of war against the Terran Dominion." War Master Culvis looked at his tactical display in growing horror. His 300 ships were impressive, but they were suddenly facing technology that was so far beyond their understanding that it might as well be magic. The human ships showed energy readings that his sensors couldn't even properly measure. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Humans are a primitive species. They don't have this kind of technology. All alien vessels, you now have 15 seconds. To comply," Admiral O's voice continued, calm and professional. "We do not wish to harm you, but we will defend human civilians against unprovoked attack." On the planet below, the 20,000 humans who had been left behind watched through the colony's observation windows as the ancient fleet took defensive positions above their world. For the first time in their lives, they were seeing human ships that were not fleeing or hiding, but standing ready to fight as equals against the galaxy's greatest powers. EGI-7, Commander Hyun-woo said from inside the Teguk's Wrath. "What happens now?" "Now, Commander, the galaxy learns that humanity was never as weak as they believed, and we discover whether 50,000 years of sleep has taught our species the wisdom to use our power responsibly." Above them, the alien fleet hesitated, caught between pride and survival. The test of humanity's return had begun. Admiral Kyung-Suk Oh stood on the bridge of the Soul's Defiance, looking at the alien fleet through displays that showed her everything she needed to know about their weapons, their shields, and their fear. She had been asleep for 50,000 years, but the memories of commanding fleets came back to her as naturally as breathing. "Admiral, the alien fleet is maintaining position but has not powered down their weapons," reported her tactical officer, a man who had also awakened from the great sleep just hours earlier. "They appear to be waiting for orders. They're deciding whether to fight or run," Kyung-suk replied calmly. "And they're realizing that either choice might get them killed." She was right. On the alien command ship, War Master Kulvis was facing the hardest decision of his military career. His fleet sensors were telling him things that couldn't be true. The human ships around him showed power readings that exceeded anything in the galactic databases. Their weapons could apparently manipulate matter at the quantum level. Their shields existed in folded space-time that his science officers couldn't even understand. "Sir, we're receiving tactical analysis from all fleet commanders," reported his aide, a young Xanthari officer whose hands shook as he read the reports. "Estimated survival time in direct combat, less than 4 minutes. Recommended action, immediate. Withdrawal, 300 ships," Kulvis muttered. "The largest combined fleet assembled in over 1,000 years. And we can't fight 47 human vessels?" "Sir, these aren't ordinary human vessels. Our computers are classifying their technology level as beyond current galactic civilization. We might as well be attacking gods." Down on Kepler 442b, the 20,000 humans who had been left behind were watching the standoff through the colony's communication systems. In the emergency shelters, families huddled together while their children asked questions that no one could answer. "Mama, why are the alien ships just sitting there?" asked little Sujin, the girl that pilot Jin Young-on had helped find during the evacuation. Her mother, who had returned to the planet when the transports were recalled, held her daughter close. "I think they're scared, baby." For the first time in their lives, they're facing humans who can fight back. Jin Young himself was in the main shelter, helping to organize the civilians and distribute emergency supplies. But he kept looking up at the displays showing the fleet battle above them. "Those ships," he said to Captain Hay One Lim, "they're really ours? They've been protecting us all this time?" "According to AEGI 7, yes. Hidden Guardian fleets at every human world, waiting for the day we would need them." Hay One shook her head in amazement. "We've been living as second-class citizens in a galaxy that our ancestors once ruled." The standoff in space continued for another hour before Admiral Kyung-suk-oh decided to break the silence. She opened a communication channel to the alien fleet, but also broadcast her message across the entire galaxy on all frequencies. "I am Admiral Kyung-suk-oh of the Terran First Fleet," she began, her voice carrying clearly to billions of beings across thousands of worlds. "I speak for the First Dominion and for all humanity throughout the galaxy. The age of human subjugation is over." On a dozen different worlds in alien council chambers and military headquarters, leaders stopped what they were doing to listen to the broadcast. Most of them had never heard a human speak with such authority before. "For 50,000 years, our people have lived quietly among you," Admiral O continued. "We have worked in your mines, built your cities, served on your ships, and asked only for the chance to live in peace. But peace must be mutual, and respect must be earned through strength as well as wisdom." President Subin Kang was watching the broadcast from the human colony on New Sol, a world in the Outer Rim territories. She had been elected to lead the local human community council just 2 years earlier, dealing with problems like trade disputes and work quotas. Now, she was listening to an admiral from humanity's forgotten past reshape the politics of the entire galaxy. "The alien governments need to understand," President Kang said to her aide, Diplomat Changmin Seo, "that everything has changed. We're not just workers and colonists anymore. We're citizens of a civilization that once ruled the stars." Changmin was already drafting messages to be sent to every human community in the galaxy. "Ma'am, we need to be careful here. If we push too hard too fast, this could turn into the galactic war that the First Dominion went to sleep to prevent. And if we don't push at all, nothing will change. Our people will go back to being treated as second-class citizens, and all this will have been for nothing. Back on the Soul's Defiance, Admiral O was explaining humanity's position to the galaxy. We do not seek conquest. The age when humans ruled through force has passed, but neither will we accept subjugation. From this day forward, humanity takes its place as an equal partner in galactic civilization. War Master Culvis listened to the human admiral's words with growing understanding. This was not a threat of conquest. It was a demand for respect. The humans were not planning to rebuild their ancient empire. They were demanding a seat at the table as equals. Admiral O, he transmitted back, his voice carefully formal. What are your terms? Simple, she replied. All restrictions on human settlement, trade, and travel are removed immediately. Human colonies gain full self-governance rights. And humanity receives equal representation in all galactic political bodies. In return, we will share our advanced technology gradually, as your civilizations prove ready to use it responsibly. The offer was stunning in its implications. The humans were proposing to give alien civilizations access to technology that was thousands of years ahead of current galactic science. But they were also making it clear that the days of treating humans as inferior beings were over. And if we refuse these terms? Asked High Counselor Zephyrin of the Galactic Federation, joining the communication from his council chambers. AAGI 7's voice answered from the Teguk's Wrath, broadcast on the same frequencies so that everyone could hear. Then you will face not just the 47 ships you see here, but the full strength of the First Dominion. 847 major vessels, 12,000 smaller ships, and defensive installations throughout the galaxy. We prefer cooperation, Counselor, but we are prepared for any alternative. The threat was delivered calmly, without anger or boasting. But the aliens understood exactly what they were hearing. Humanity had the power to conquer the galaxy if they chose to do so. They were choosing not to, but only if treated with respect. Over the next several hours, emergency meetings were held in government centers across the galaxy. The Zenthari Empire, the Vorthan Hegemony, the Krillian Defense Alliance, and dozens of smaller powers all faced the same decision: accept humanity as equals, or fight a war they could not possibly win. The decision came from an unexpected source. General Mordek of the Krillian forces, the same officer who had threatened the humans just days earlier, was the first to stand down. The Krillian hegemony recognizes the sovereignty of human space, he announced over the fleet communication channels. We withdraw our forces and request negotiations for a new treaty of cooperation. One by one, the other alien powers followed. The Zenthari ships powered down their weapons. The Vorthan vessels moved to non-threatening positions. Within 6 hours, the massive alien fleet that had come to destroy humanity was instead offering diplomatic talks. President Bin Kang found herself appointed as the interim leader of the new Terran Resurgence Council, tasked with representing humanity in the negotiations that would reshape galactic politics. Diplomat Changmin SCO became her chief negotiator, working with Aegis-7 and the awakened admirals to establish humanity's new place in the galaxy. It's incredible, Changmin said during one of their planning sessions. 6 months ago, we were begging for better work contracts and lower taxes. Now we're writing the new constitution for galactic civilization. The power was always there, President Kang replied, watching through the viewport as human ships moved freely through space for the first time in 50,000 years. Our ancestors just chose to sleep until we were wise enough to use it properly. The negotiations took months, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The Treaty of New Terra established humanity as a major galactic power with full rights and responsibilities. Human colonies became independent worlds. Human traders gained access to all galactic markets. Human scientists began sharing carefully selected technologies that would benefit all species, but perhaps most importantly, human children like little Sujin would grow up in a galaxy where being human was something to be proud of, not something to hide. Dr. So Young, Kim and Commander Hyun Woo, Park walked through the fully restored Teguc's Wrath 1 year after its discovery. The ship now served as a museum and research center, a reminder of humanity's forgotten past and a symbol of its reclaimed future. AGI-7, are you satisfied with how things have turned out? So Young asked the AI, whose holographic form still appeared regularly throughout the ship. The Great Sleep has served its purpose, AEGI-7 replied. Humanity has learned wisdom too. Go with its power. The younger species have matured enough to accept equality instead of demanding dominance. And the galaxy faces the future together rather than divided by fear and prejudice.